Hello. I'm so glad you joined me today, friend, for this special episode with Angela Gilmeister, who is an amazing travel expert, sharing all of her insights on a basic level with us today, as we hope you dive into travel planning and perhaps even using some of her tools to do that even better as we talk through type by type vacationing and travel today on the pod. I thought it was a perfect way to bring summer in a little more fully, and we have so many serious topics here. What a cool thing to take an aside and say, okay, amazing job on all your hard work. Do not forget to plan fun in. That's what I do week in, week out with couples is we do the nitty gritty tears work. We do the hard questions work, the revelations, the deep dives, the insights. And then we end with, oh my gosh, like, are you going to get that fun time in together? And as you know, sometimes when we finally get that fun time, if we're no good at it, it's like, I don't want this again with you. So let's stop that today. Let's help it to come better and better. And also, let's remind each other of just being on your own and traveling with friends and traveling with your kids. There are so many aspects of traveling well that you can listen for not only you and your spouse or partner, but for anybody that you're with so you can respect each other. I know I am right actually in the thick of traveling to Michigan to visit all kinds of nieces, nephews with my daughter Melody. Hannah and Jack will be traveling to a summer camp locally to stay overnight there. Wes and Jack have been with friends traveling in the mountains just for the weekend. And so we are all just collectively going to be traveling this week and then later in July as a family. And we need to know, how do we manage these moments to the best of our abilities? And you need that too. But first, as I said, as a primer, it's just even starting to realize just how good travel and vacation are for you, even if you're on a shoestring budget or if you've got a lot more money to work with. This episode is for you. So I'm very happy you pressed play and are spending time with us because we're going to have some fun today. And I'm also wanting to let you know that all of Angela's travel info details, she can help you plan your travel so well. She's an Enneagram 1, married to a 7. So yeah, she is in her full 7, but she also has all that order of the 1 to plan extremely well with you if you need that support too. So make sure you grab that and all of our Enneagram and marriage tools in the show notes as we dive in with Angela right here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. We're so excited to have you today.
Oh, thank you so much, Krista. I'm so excited to talk to you again. I truly admire you so much, and it's super special to be a guest on your show.
Oh my gosh. Well, likewise, girl, I am so grateful to know you. As soon as I got connected with you in Wild Hair Travels, I really was like, oh gosh, this is a fit. We need her refreshing energy for Enneagram and marriage. We talk about so much seriousness. I know you do too. This is such a joy that you get to do this for your job. Tell us about you. Tell us about your life, your hubby.
Yeah. I live in Texas. I'm a born and raised Texan. I own my own vacation planning business called Wild Hair Travels, like you just said. My husband and I, we have been married for almost 8 years now. Actually, next week will be 10 years since we met.
Oh,
And we're currently in the little kid season of our marriage. So we have
yeah.
an almost 3-year-old son, and I have the privilege of
Mm.
getting to stay home with him
Oh,
while balancing my
yeah.
business. So it's really, really awesome right now, even though it is a balance and it is,
Yes.
always moving parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And a lot of our listeners are right there with you, having their little kids listening while they're even moving around their feet and dreaming of vacations, dreaming of how to do travel well. And you are the expert on this. So we're deferring a lot to you. Of course, we're sharing some conversation about it too. But I love that you're telling us how we can relax. You have found some balance in your life. Of course, it's never perfect. Now,
Yeah.
tell us about your Enneagram type hobbies, Enneagram type, and maybe a little about how you met.
Yeah, so I am an Enneagram type 1 and my hubby is a 7, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's a 7. I've been trying to kind of explore that with him a little bit more, and we kind of think he might have a 6 wing. So that's where we're at, 1 and a
Ooh.
7.
Yeah.
I love that you asked how we met, because
Mm.
we've been married long enough that no one really asks us that anymore like they did in our early years of
Oh,
marriage.
mhm.
But I love our story. So we met in a Texas dance hall, which is one of my favorite places and things about Texas. I love two-stepping and live country
Ooh.
music. So 10 years ago, my best friend had come up to go to an outdoor concert with me. So in the city I lived at the time, there were these free weekly concerts at this barbecue restaurant, kind of in a backyard area. And it was just very much the social thing to do.
Yeah.
And I was really excited that like my best friend was coming from out of town. So I didn't actually meet my husband at the concert itself, but I'm 95% sure I saw him there and, noticed him.
Yeah.
Um, but there is a dance hall nearby that you would go to if you were still up for it after the concert for more music and more dancing. And so I just happened to find myself standing next to him. And I was just standing there waiting for him to ask me to dance the entire night, but he never did. And I found out later on because he didn't know how to, and
Yeah.
he had seen me dance. And so he's like, well, she knows what she's doing. So he was a little
Oh,
intimidated.
oh,
But we ended up just talking the entire night on the side of the dance floor. And just one more kind of funny sidebar. And
yeah.
there was a guy that I worked with at the time that was interested in me. He had kind of asked me on a couple of dates, and I didn't really want to go there with a colleague. And he was there too that night, and
Oh my goodness.
he asked me to dance when I was coming back from the restroom. And I remember I said, I can't dance with you because I think I'm in love. And so
Oh
I
my
just like all
God.
the love at first sight stuff. I'm a
Oh,
believer, but also like knowing what I know now about the Enneagram,
yeah.
I just like knew in my gut. I just knew he was my person. So
Oh,
yeah.
oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I love all of it. I love the two cowboys buying for you vibe. I love it. I love the possible work trope, but nope. And then I
Yeah.
love that you found your beautiful love story and you felt the chemistry from that first night.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Totally. And, I was always someone that kind of was a bit sensible in my head of, if you meet someone that you think you might consider for marriage, you should
Yeah.
date for a really long time and really make sure.
Yeah.
But it so didn't work out that way. It was just
Yeah.
like, nope, he's
Oh,
the one.
just the right person. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for that. And he obviously felt that way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So are you guys, I know we were chatting before we got on how we're sort of like the opposite, the same pairing, but opposite with
Yeah.
male, female. Were you guys also that opposites attract sort of pairing like we were?
It's hard to say. I think that whenever he met me, I was definitely kind of in my seven. I
Me
was
too.
definitely in
Me
my,
too. One
having
set of
a good
seven. Yeah.
time. And certainly, we were young, we were doing a lot of fun things all the time, going places all the time. And so I think it took a bit for my one to kind of come up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when we were really fresh and new, it was like, we were just having an amazing time together.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense that you're like, I met him in my seven zone. And I really think that makes perfect sense. I think of ones and how often they're in their seven zone just because that's their first point to go relaxing.
Yeah.
So I just love, and he also was in his seven in the way that he was wanting to talk. So you were
Yeah.
both in that seven space of chatter, of dancing, or at least wanting to. And beautiful love story many years later. I'm glad you also capitalized on this for our audience members. Quick pause to say, talking about your early days and when you met is super good for your relationship. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
got those vibes.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're awesome. That's an awesome question that you bring to the show.
Oh, I'm so glad. I try to ask it most, so sometimes I'm so in my head that I'm like, no, I have to press on. But today I feel our relaxation, like we deserve that. We all need a rest. We work very hard. We're in a culture that's very Enneagram 3. Everybody's working so much. So help us to get to that seven space and to relax a little bit. And I guess I'm grateful you're helping us to do that. And so tell us how you became passionate about helping couples to be able to travel together as we consider summer break and even planning for next summer guys, because we do that early too. So
Mhm.
what do you feel like travel kind of, why did this come up for you?
Yeah. So my favorite trips to plan for clients are couples trips and girls' friends trips. And not that I don't believe in family trips, I
Yes,
very much do.
yes, yes,
But
yes.
especially when you're parents, taking a
Oh,
trip without the kids is so permission giving. And I
mm,
think it's just extra critical when you're in that busy kid season of life, which I don't know, it's probably from 0 to 18 years. You can tell me what you think on that. But
yep.
it's just there it naturally, your life does just naturally revolve around them. And of course, you want them there, you want them in your experiences. But I think traveling together as a couple, just the two of you, it
Mm,
just does such wonders for your marriage. I mean, I think for one, certain trips can just kind of strengthen your teamwork, your communication, your bond. And then, another thing that always comes up for me is I think it really helps to build your family narrative. And so if we want
Yes.
to just like start with the first one, I think the first one's more obvious. Like there are certain trips that maybe if they have a lot of moving parts, or maybe you're going to a foreign country and it's outside of your comfort zone, when you're with your spouse, like you're doing those hard things together, sorting out the train and the metro and
Mm,
how to get from here to here.
yeah.
And maybe you don't speak the language. It's like, okay, the time is now to play to each other's strengths and to get
Yeah.
through this and lean on each other and communicate.
Yeah.
Because, we're all alone here in this
Yeah.
foreign place. My husband and I, we were actually reminiscing the other day about our first trip abroad together, which was to Peru. And let me tell you, there were some sketchy experiences, some challenging experiences, and a lot of unplanned things that happened. And so we took this trip before we got married. Like we'd been dating for about a year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like the trip itself sealed the deal for
Yeah.
marriage for us, but it
Yeah.
absolutely showed us sides of each other that, we
Wow.
we were a bit more vulnerable and worried and unsure. And we got
Mm,
to kind of see that in each other. And we
mm,
had to work together as a team to
mm.
get through some of those things.
Yeah.
But even if you don't take a trip as intense as like Peru, I
Yes.
think vacations by nature are just essentially like extended, uninterrupted periods of time together. And if you have a
Right.
busy schedule and you have a bunch of kids, like maybe you haven't had that as a while. And so it just naturally gives you that space for more
Mm,
conversation, more bonding time, and, bringing back the romance
mm.
when, you're in a different place.
Thank you for saying that. That has sealed so many couples' love stories that I work with where they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I we finally got away," or "That's what's been saving us every year, 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is." And you're really reminding us of the why because we're building
Hmm.
teamship and we're remembering all the fun we can have. We're doing these challenges together and then later some of
Hmm.
them with kids. But you're really reminding us of the value of the couples getaways. And I love that
Yeah.
you love those. And it sounds like that's what made you passionate about it was just seeing yourselves walk through it and how meaningful it was to bond you.
Totally. And even, just, the permission to give yourself, if we just kind of took even spouses and kids out of the equation, even the permission to give yourself the time and spend the money in general, that's also a big deal that a lot of us just kind of don't do. Travel does get put on the back burner sometimes because there are so many other things, so
Mm,
many other expenses, so many other
yeah.
ways to spend our time. And so, yeah, that all in itself is definitely a fueling passion for
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is your gifting. I can see it all over you. And you've been all over. And when I was on your podcast, we talked about your trips to Ecuador and just all the beautiful things you've done in the near and the far places. Because I'm assuming people can do some of their travel well together, even within the States, and still find lots of adventures.
Definitely. And I'm so glad you brought that up because like going back to like I think travel can also help us cultivate that family narrative. Obviously we want to kind of cultivate that narrative like in our normal daily routine, but a
Yeah.
huge backbone of a family narrative are the stories, and you get stories by
Mm,
having experiences, and a lot of times the most memorable ones
yeah.
come outside of that normal daily routine. And so, my husband and I's trip to Peru, that was a little bit sketchy at times. I mean, we have tons of stories about that trip that we're going to tell for the rest of our lives, but what it actually did was it nudged us in a direction of future travel and experiences that is more United States based. And so what we learned about ourselves is we both have a shared interest in nature and wildlife and the mountains,
Mm,
and that's deeply important for us. And so we now have a family tradition. Sometimes it's me and hubby only. Sometimes we've brought little guy twice now.
mhm.
But we travel up to the mountains here in the US every single August to celebrate our anniversary. And so that's just become like part of who we are as a couple, and it's almost like part of our identity now. Like people just
Yeah.
know that about us. Like even though we're Texans, we have this deep love for the mountains out
So
west and wildlife and rivers. And I don't know, that just kind of permeates into our life in Texas
mm,
too. It's strange. It's like
yeah.
kind of become part of our, story.
Well, and I bet it inspires a lot of others too who want to reach for their dreams and who see you guys doing that. And they're like, they're everyday people and they're doing it and we can do it
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I think you're pairing really, at least we've seen it to be a pairing that's social enough that people are like learning or looking. And so you also need your refreshment when others are trying to learn from you. So I
Yeah.
love that for you. What about what's one of your favorite mountain ranges to travel to in the US?
My absolute favorite is Glacier National Park in Montana. It is it
Oh,
has my heart. We've been there twice, and it's just so beautiful. We've seen multiple bears. Side note, I've become like super interested in bears.
oh my
Nerdy part of
gosh.
me because of just encounters we've had. I just think they're
Yeah,
so interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, that's so we love Montana, Idaho, Wyoming. That's kind of where we've been going, but we plan to explore more up kind of in the west as well.
Oh, oh my gosh, I'm so glad. We love Yellowstone in those states as well.
Yeah.
But I've been literally looking at postcards whenever I go to the bookstore and I'll see all the ones and I'm like, I've been to this one and that one. And I'm sure our listeners can do that with us sometimes. And that's the one glacier that I have not been to. So I'm
Oh,
so glad you shared that. Thank
it
you.
is amazing. Yes.
Yay. Well, we're heading to the Adirondacks this summer, so we'll try a different part of the country and see what we find. But let's help
Yes.
our listeners to get to know even more about how they can grow in this way and shine together. And I really wanted to check in with you about when we finally get our travel booked, which we know takes a lot. Um, let's talk about how type by type we can bring some romance and fun to that travel because we've all been on those trips where it goes awry, where something was booked and now we are just in the worst state. And we can't help it sometimes because trips take on a
Yeah.
life of their own.
Hmm.
But sometimes we can't help it. And good planning can help quite a bit. And this is where you come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think like before, even before you even book a trip, like I go on this like tangent way too much, but we also shouldn't forget to ask ourselves what it is we actually want from our next vacation. Like, because this is just so easy not to do. You're just like focus on the destination. Yeah, that place looks pretty. I've always wanted to go there, but
Yeah.
sometimes maybe it's not like the right next fit for where you're at. Like what are you craving right now? Like that you could like hope to get on that vacation? Like what's
Yeah.
missing in your life right now? What are you most
Yeah.
looking forward to? Does that destination match for you?
Yeah.
Because those answers, like they can fluctuate depending
Mm.
on the year or season of life that we're in. But definitely our Enneagram can help clue us in to like what those really fun experiences would be for us too. So do we want to just go through this type by type?
Yeah, let's do it. And I was just going
Okay.
to add to that. When you said that, I had a session with somebody this week who said our vacation, when we didn't do that, it
Mhm.
backfired because everyone was crying and the kids were not at the right ages for it. So this is so
Yeah.
valuable for you to say, like, maybe take this trip with the kids at this age or just you two
Yeah.
for this one. And so really paying attention to stages of life and kids' personalities, parents' personalities. So yes, thank you. We would love to go through type by type. And I know you said you want it to be a bit conversational. I want
Yeah.
all your tips that you can give, and I'll share any that you want me to give.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with type one, which is my type. And I know, Krista, you and I talked about this, and hearing you say this to me was so normalizing because it's like I know this in my head, but hearing someone else say it
Yeah,
is really great. But
yeah.
for a type one, like having unplanned or unexpected adventures and experiences is really important to a type one.
Mhm. Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about that is you can't plan for the unplanned, which is really hard for planners.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think for a type one especially, like I have learned for myself that planning in room for like scheduled white space, scheduled spontaneity
I
is
love that.
so important for
Yeah.
at least creating the space for that to happen.
Mm.
And that could look like you deciding to just have a camping chair and sit next to a river in this national park for the afternoon versus we're going to go to this lookout point and go do this hike, etc. Where it is
Mhm.
just more white space to kind of, well, let's see what happens. Or if I don't feel like doing this, well, we can decide to move on and see what we find. Or
Mm.
it could look like,
So good.
you know, let's actually pull over. And even though
Mhm.
the itinerary doesn't say it, let's pull over and pop into this local hole in
Mhm.
the wall restaurant and just, meet some locals or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, So
Yeah.
that kind of comes to mind for a one. Also, I do think that a lot of ones deeply value being in nature. They kind of look for that peace.
Yeah.
And so just kind of having that as a focus and, maybe renting a more secluded and cozy mountain cabin versus a hotel where
Mm.
you really have that peace back in nature. I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air for a one and also give the opportunity for romance and unplanned adventures, which equates to fun for a type one.
I love that. And I love how you explained it so beautifully, Angela, that this is not the natural starting point for a one. We're
Yeah.
taking some deep dives here because we want your travel to be exceptional. So, this is
Mm-hmm.
why we're digging with you guys and encouraging you. Yes, there's going to be some planned space, but I love how you said also some white space so that it is open space that you did technically plan still, but
Yes.
yet you've got wiggle room. And then we all know that when you're visiting national parks, sometimes there's lines you didn't expect,
Yeah.
bears, all these things. So you have to be more flexible and less rigid anyway, because certain things will be closed. There might be a fire. We've been through all that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you just reminded us of being flexible, but as a one, wanting to maintain some of the plans. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Because that makes us feel really good.
Yes. Yes. And you don't want to miss all you came for too. So I love
Yes,
that. You
sure.
keep it organized. All right. What about our twos?
Yeah, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Krista. But for me, what comes up for me for a two is something the opportunity to spend quality time with her people while also getting a chance to relax for a change. So I
Mm.
know that our twos probably love those big extended family vacations, but
Mhm.
let's like maybe do that, but hire a chef so that you're not the one cooking and cleaning
Yeah.
for your entire family. Or, or if it's just you and your husband going to a romantic winery and just kind of having the entire day to do
Yeah.
that. Or
Yeah.
I even think like other bringing another couple friend along with you could kind of bring
Mm.
the fun, but then also maybe going your separate ways and having romance kind of mixed in as well. Those
Mhm.
are my thoughts.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And some of my friends who are twos have shown me how valuable this is. They love their community. You named it.
Hmm.
When they
Hmm.
come for a spring break to visit me or other friends, they are out there for the relationships. And when
Yeah.
I plan trips with my two friends, that's what we're doing as well. We're thinking about relating together.
Hmm.
But as far as with the romance, you nailed it. When it's just a couple trip, sometimes they do like to go out with another couple. And yet there's going to be that longing for, I want to feel special. I work hard. So letting them know there is some time for just you two. I do think that with twos, you want to make sure it's a place where they can really let down and relax, is what I would
Yeah.
add. Not that they're not up for adventures, but twos need time for sleep, rest,
Hmm.
repair, getting ready. They're good at attracting and they need time for those things. So they don't want to be busy from morning to night the way some of us other types would want to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. That is awesome. Very good.
Aw, thank you for sharing that, though. You led the way there, girl. What do you
Yeah.
think about our threes that we would want to remember?
So for our threes, I struggle with the threes and sevens because the threes and sevens do love to do a lot of things. And
Mhm.
even though as a one, I like to do a lot of things as well, but I think my view of what I want to do is more narrowed, whereas threes and
Yeah.
sevens do seem a bit more versatile.
Yeah.
But I do think threes probably love them a big city. Or they
Mhm.
love them like a really beautiful Instagrammable destination, somewhere they
Yes.
can really feel proud of.
Yes,
They
nailed
want to have
it.
the photos and show their people where they went.
You nailed it. They like the special privileges. They work
Yes.
so hard. And I'm pairing those two statements together because it makes them sound like divas and kings, and they're not trying to be. They're just like, literally, I work so hard all the time. When we finally get to relax, I want the fast passes or I want the
Hmm.
resorts because I need to know that it's all planned. So that's what I recommend to threes is go to the resort. We have friends that love to come to Marco Island, not too far. It's like a couple of hours away to go to Naples, Marco Island. Everything's done. Everything's there on the resort grounds, or they go, to Zion or to Moab, but they're going to be in their ATVs and they're going to have the
Yeah.
extra special equipment to make it like this
Yes.
epic time,
Yes.
helicoptering, whatever it is, they're in for the big time. And so knowing that about our threes, it kind of gives you guys permission, like you work hard and go ahead and try that.
Yeah.
Might be expensive.
Yeah. Book the underwater bungalows. Like you are the one I
We
believe that
took
you're gonna do it.
me too. And I do believe that if you're starting a little bit smaller, that's okay too. Just have fun with whatever you can and make it special.
Yeah, totally. That's great advice.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Awesome. Well, moving to our type fours, I love our type fours because I really love when I get a client, which not that I ask my clients what their Enneagram type is. A lot of them don't necessarily
Yeah,
know, but I
no.
do
Yeah.
try to like pick out, try to glean things. But there are some clients that come to me because they want that truly custom, unique experience. And that's what I love about the fours is they do want off the beaten path. They want a really special thing that is perfectly tailored to them. They don't want those big box tour companies. And so when I think of a four, I just think like having a private local guide because they also don't really love to plan. The nitty-gritty planning is not
Yeah.
really their jam,
Yeah.
but having a private local guide who drives you around and lets you really get to experience the culture and see sides of the
Mm.
city or country that a
Yeah.
big tour never would, and also staying in the most beautiful Airbnb is
Yeah.
probably, with a really, really unique place. Like that's what I think of when I think of a fort.
Oh my gosh, you nailed it. You are such a good trip planner. Oh
Ah,
my gosh, this is just beautiful. And my four, who is 18, like you said, 0 to 18, but it keeps going, girl.
oh yeah.
She was just showing my husband and I pictures. They are very good at looking back on trips too, of
Mm.
a special Airbnb we had in the Redwoods. And she was just loving the rustic little charm of it and showing beautiful pictures she'd
Oh,
taken. So the slowed down pacing for picture taking for
yeah.
enjoyment. But what you really nailed is fours are very relational, like the twos and threes. And so the tour guide is somebody that they actually enjoy bonding with as well, because they're often introverted. So it's these one-to-one conversations and the lore of the town. It adds
Mhm.
to the mystique of it all. So I love that you brought that in just to remind them, like, go with some of your trip or all of your trip with a guide. That is so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it really can make a really unique experience. We actually had a local, I am more of an independent traveler myself, but we used a local guide for a part of our trip in Ecuador. And it was amazing because we got
Oh,
to go and really converse with locals. And you did just have a more insider view. And even just getting to know him, we're like, Danny, you're our friend now. So maybe that's part of my four coming out.
I do think it is. And also, I think as a one, you don't need it as much because fours are not body types. You're in nature and you're seeing it all and you're experiencing it all, and your five senses are coming awake. And a four needs to be brought. A lot of the time, they need the bringing.
That's a
So I
great
love
point,
that.
Krista. Oh, that is an absolutely great point that I hadn't thought about. Ah, great.
Oh, well, they're doing inhibited. So that's why I thought of it. But you, yeah, as
Yeah.
a one, you're out there. And just like you said, for those of us who are fours who maybe don't have the money to do all of that, you can say to yourself, but I will, while we're whitewater rafting, we're going to have that tour and I'm going to enjoy
Mhm.
letting them lead,
Yes.
etc. So, oh, beautiful. Okay. What about fives?
So fives, I think, especially, when traveling with other companions, maybe you have a non-five in your group that's not necessarily interested in the learning and the deep dive of the culture that you're visiting.
Yeah.
Finding a destination that does have some fascinating history, like with a lot to learn, but is equally just like kind of a people pleaser. It's just as interesting to your to spouse. The Scottish Highlands come to mind. They come to mind because they're super
Mm,
romantic, but also really interesting. They have like that
yeah.
folklore
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
the history.
Mhm.
Even somewhere like Machu Picchu, with the Incan Empire, there's so much to learn for a five if that's, interesting to them, that
Yeah.
history is interesting to them, but
Yeah.
it's still versatile enough to everyone in the group can kind of pick what they want from the trip. So that's kind of, but fives are not, they are a bit more of a mystery because they are a lot more, like my brother's a five, and I still, he's the, do I know him? I don't know my brother very well because he is
Yeah.
so, doesn't talk
Yeah.
about himself a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And so they really appreciate having trips where they can just drink in information and not necessarily have to share everything. But thankfully, as part of the planning triad, when they know they're going with friends, family, partners, they store up energy and plan out some of the conversations they hope to have and anticipate it
Mhm.
out like a game of chess so they can be ready mentally for the fellowship together. And
Yeah.
then they can dive really deep. So traveling with your brother might be something that brings out a different side of him. Oddly enough,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing with vibes. And I think they like their deserts as well, to be able to say, okay, I am at one with this place, I have this
Yeah.
arid space and it just
Mhm.
feels like peace to not be with all of the stimulation.
Yes, I agree with that. I had an old coworker who I was pretty sure was a five, and he was very much into hiking in nature and
Mm.
that learning in that way and having that space, like you just said.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for bringing us to mind that they want to interact with nature on a very deep level. And that you said their partners might not have to do all that part with them.
Yeah, and they would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, what about our sixes, another planning type?
Yeah, sixes. Sixes are, actually very adventurous. And one of my best friends is a six, and she is a fabulous travel companion because,
Mm.
as a one, I'm doing most of the plans. She kind
Yeah.
of like trusts me, I guess, to do that. But
Yeah.
she asks the questions and she almost like gut checks
Mm.
everything, which to
Mm.
me is like awesome. I have
Yeah.
someone checking my
Yeah.
work. Yay.
It's true.
um versus
Yeah.
taking it there's no offense taken, there's just it's great that she's really kind of looking through everything to make sure that she feels as safe as possible too. And
Yeah.
but one thing about her that I just started, I've learned that she really surprises us sometimes with the adventurous and active excursions that she wants to do, like canyoning or ziplining across a canyon or things that, you know,
Yeah.
someone that thinks of a six is, afraid of safety and whatnot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
on vacation, she wants to feel alive. She wants to go on vacation, have a great time, do something that she doesn't normally do because she
Yeah.
also is a really
Mm.
hard worker. And so
Yeah.
she is the closest six that I know. And so that's kind of who I'm drawing from there on
Yeah.
what I think of for a six.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it in terms of they're working hard. They're very organized, like ones. Like you said, it's lovely to have a six checking your work because they
Mhm.
can do it with almost the precision of a one.
Yeah,
And of course, we know because ones aren't perfect, they can catch things the one missed, even if they're not always quite as precise.
right.
And there's not many other types who can do that, unless they're
Yeah.
in their six or one space. So I think that it's nice to have them to be a companion with any type. But like you said, they're great loyalists anyway. They're always up for adventure. And
Yeah.
so just knowing you are on track with her, I will add that some of them really enjoy adventures of a different kind too, like city adventures. I
Hmm.
know the six in my family really loves big city times because of all the stimulation. And so it's really important for them because they're such hard workers to help you to get what you like. And there are a lot of them as about fairness too. So they want to make sure they're heard on what they like as well. So I love
Yeah.
that they'll come along with you if it makes sense. They're very logical in that way. They're
I
like,
feel
I'm going to do
that.
your thing, then you're going to do mine.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. That's
Good.
awesome.
Yes, like you said, they can be risk takers with us too. So they can
Yeah.
push us to fun heights.
Yeah. Well, I think for type seven, you need to lead, Krista.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but I also want to hear your hubby stuff too, because I'm curious as how we're different.
Yeah.
But definitely adventures are our middle name, and
Hmm.
the ones we don't plan are even better. But we also really are planning types as well. In fact, sevens have a planning fixation. So if we do plan, sometimes we can cram too many things in to no one's surprise.
Hmm.
And so what we have to do often is to rest and to remind ourselves to just find some pockets to just stay in when we do find our groove. So it's almost like plan a few things for the day, knowing you won't be able to do it all. And when you do find that place where you can finally feel soothed and let down, stop and stay a while. We had an example of that was a coffee shop we had in it was Utah. It was in Park City, Utah last summer. And it was really odd, but it was just this gorgeous time of sitting and reflecting and drinking coffee or tea
Hmm.
and looking at books. And obviously, that's not your classic seven vacation. There were
Yeah.
definitely mountaintop experiences, but this is a memory that I carry with me when I think about relaxation. And so that's sort of just as we did with the one, this is an opposite surprise angle that sevens, yes, the mountaintops, right, of course.
Yeah.
But let's also just admit that when we can finally relax, that's a huge gift to sevens. So stay
Yeah.
there. And if you're with a seven and you sort of see that out of the corner of your eye, just go with it and know that that's really rare for them. And that's a really big gift to them to get a place where they can relax. Would you
Yeah.
add
Totally.
anything to that with your hubby, or does that
Yeah.
resonate?
That definitely resonates for my hubby. He doesn't plan our vacations. This is a whole thing between us because I get, I'm the planner, whatever. I won't get
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
But he definitely appreciates the plan. He likes knowing what's on the agenda. He, what's ahead. And that's where I almost think he maybe has a six wing because he doesn't like
Yeah.
surprises
Yeah.
on
That's six wing.
vacation
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
sure. But he certainly he wants to keep moving, go, go, go. He's a total busybody on vacation, but
Yeah.
he does like to consolidate the things to the morning and then leave the afternoon for just relaxing. And as
Um,
long as the relaxing is somewhere that he thinks is beautiful, such as in nature, a beautiful mountain cabin with a
yes.
stream, a nice patio, stuff like that, where he can grill out and
Mm.
that is his kind of relaxing of just kind of existing outside.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us some tips that if you're a seven, you don't have to be on the go all the time. You can bring the party inside
Yeah.
and make it a kitchen party and
Yeah.
have fun just relaxing with your food. And I love that you're saying he's not in the planning fixation so much. That's good because,
Yeah.
like you said, it could be extremes at times, but it's good that he's not like, here, we're doing this and there's no shifting.
Hmm.
So I like that you both have a little bit of play there. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Wow. What about our eights?
Oh, our eights are such interesting people. I
They
think
are.
eights really love. I kind of see two things. Part of me can see an eight who works really, really hard and uses the vacation to truly have a chance to unplug.
Mm,
Part of me can see an eight using a vacation as just taking that really big epic bucket list trip to
mm,
like a safari in Africa or
yeah.
like a cruise to Antarctica, like something really thrilling that's not really the
Mhm.
typical norm.
Yeah.
That could be one side, but also sometimes they just need a beach vacation where they sit
Yes.
and relax for a change. So I do struggle with eights because I think it's more of a what do you need right now? What do you need in your
Ooh,
life right
that's a
now?
good one.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think with eights, a lot of eights, I think they do like to connect a purpose to their
Mhm.
vacations. I know some eights are really, really big hearted and want to feel like they're actually like going somewhere that matters. I don't know, somewhere that's maybe more
Epic.
spiritual for them, that's
Yeah.
really like impactful for
Mm,
them. So there's
yeah.
just a lot of variety with an eight with a vacation from what I can tell.
Oh, that's very insightful. And I think you're definitely right. It goes back to our earlier conversation of make sure it's the right fit for the right moment for the eight. And then I also think that when you nailed it, that they like their big epic tours. I think they're very spiritual and deep. And I think because they're great clarifiers, people don't always know that the eights often have a very a poetic or depth side to them that has a lot of narrative. They like epic soundtracks. They want to make a huge memory. And I'll add a
Yeah.
tip here is with the person they love. Eights are very
Mhm.
relationally wired. So they really want to make an epic trip together. And so that can be the deciding factor is what will we both enjoy in addition to the challenges you mentioned. Sometimes it's just going to
Mhm.
be like, hey, spouse, I'm an eight, I'm taking the lead. Come with me on my Ironman trip or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we know a lot of eights who are very into athletics or whatever their fun fields. I know my dad took us around to places like Gettysburg, etc. But
Mhm.
there have also been so many eights in my life that have shown me that they just want to be with their people and relax anywhere on those
Yeah.
other trips. So that's why I keyed in on, ooh, you are very insightful when you said it has to be like what needs to happen right now for that eight to really relax. And usually it's going to involve, like you said, something big and or just a special time with their person because they're like, we're busy. I
Yeah.
just want to see you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I like how you summarized and said an eight a lot of times is looking for just a huge memory. I think that's a really
Mhm.
good summary, a huge
Yeah.
memory. Because to an
Yeah.
eight, they want that bigger than life, like they wanting
Yeah. Yeah.
the big energy with the trip as well,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
their people.
Yeah, let's plan it. Let's do it right. And then let's plan the next one. You know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how they
yeah.
are. Okay, well, tell us about our nines, our sweetie nines.
Our nines, yes. So for a nine, I think everyone kind of knows that nines really value rest and relaxation. And so they can do vacation very, very well if
Yeah.
they're given the space to. If they're given this, if
Yeah.
they don't sign up for a really busy itinerary that is
Mm,
like not really their idea of a vacation. And so
yes, true.
I think when I think of a nine, I imagine them in like a super comfortable vacation rental with
Mhm.
a beautiful patio or maybe their own private pool. And
Mhm.
they get someone to come in and cook for them, or they have someone come and give them cooking classes, or something
Mhm.
that's just very where they do feel like they're involved in the culture in some way, but at a leisurely pace where and they just have plenty of time to relax and enjoy themselves.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good reminder. And while we're actually recording now, here we are when this episode is being aired. My family and I should be on our Adirondacks trip,
Okay.
and my nine was the one saying she really just wanted to relax a lot. And so hopefully anyone with a nine can learn to honor that if that's not your natural style.
Mhm.
But also she wanted to be close to the city. And as you had mentioned, the type one in our family kind of wanted to be away in the woods a little bit. And she's like, I want to be on the main strip because I like my comforts. So as
Mhm.
long as they have their comforts in the woods or
Yeah.
in the house, it's like, Mom, I need Wi-Fi. I want to go to the
Yeah.
biggest city. If I'm going to mountains, I want to go to the city within the mountains. So Lake Placid with the
Yeah.
main street location. And, and you have to let your nine help plan a trip because they're the secret planners of the trip that they'll resent you and get stubborn. And
Mhm.
you'll think, I just, they're so peaceful. No, no, no. If you don't consider them, they're going to lead the trip through their stubbornness. And you're not going to like the vibes they put out if you don't listen to
Yes.
them. But if you do listen to them, like she's my favorite traveling companion. I'm taking her to
Mhm.
Michigan soon too. And it's not that the others aren't our favorites too, but this is a beautiful partnership to travel with if you know what you told us, this gold. And I'm spending more time here because nines always have to wait. And sometimes they say, I don't like
Yeah.
having to wait to talk about my
I
type.
know. Yeah.
But also
We should have
because
started with nines.
yeah, we should have started at nine. Sorry. So we're taking a few extra minutes on you, but just also they really deserve it because they work so hard to be there for others. So just honoring them. How would you say we could honor them if we are on an adventure and we're very energized types of people? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure one of my other best friends is a nine, but I'm not typing her.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Let me know.
I definitely she is very easygoing and has a lot of traits of a nine. And what I have learned over almost 10 years of traveling with her is that let her sleep in. I will wake up early and go read my book
True.
on the balcony. Let her sleep in. Like just let her.
Mm.
Or let her choose, give her a very narrowed decision on something to do versus what do you want to do today? Because that is like totally like, she's
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah,
whatever you want to do, it's
yeah,
just too much for her to make a decision on.
yeah,
And sometimes even giving her two choices is even like, well, whatever you want to do. And
yeah, yeah.
so even being a more pointed, like, does this sound good today or tomorrow? And kind of giving her a
Yeah,
say in the win.
I like
And I think what you said as far as bringing them into the vacation planning and the itinerary versus just thinking that they're
that.
going to be good with everything. Because certainly in my younger years with this friend, she was the easygoing one. Oh, she's down for
Yeah,
anything. She's
yeah,
so go with the flow. But I
yeah.
have learned that no, she absolutely has
Has opinions.
preferences.
Yeah.
And I want her experience to be just as
Mm.
fulfilling as mine. And I don't want to be the
Yeah.
one dominating the trip.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And that's why you travel so well together with your friends of all different types because you really do consider them. And we've come to learn that with my planning, it's me and my husband have to get our dates together. Then
Mhm.
I and my nine and I have to plan our comfortable accommodations. And then
Mhm.
our four will come in with some beauty ideas about bringing beauty in with nature. And then our six will come in with what adventures he has to have.
Yeah.
So I think that if families can learn to let everyone be a voice in it, it just adds so much to the equation, don't you?
Totally. Yeah. I love that you just gave an example of your whole family and, all of
Yeah.
them with different types and how each one kind of brings in the most important thing for them. I mean, the
Yeah.
nine, the comforts, your six, like, let's go have fun and feel alive. And,
Right,
and,
right.
your one, maybe being in the woods, being closer to
Yeah.
nature. Yeah. And that's almost even a good thing to think about at the beginning. Like, as you consider your group, I mean, even if you don't know everyone's Enneagram type and you kind of like, just ask them, like, what is most important to you with this trip? Like, what is your
Mhm.
number one must do? If you had to pick one thing,
Mhm.
is the lodging most important? Is it going to do this thing? Because that you can just glean a
Mhm.
lot by that
Yeah.
one question.
Isn't that true? And also, what's going to make you feel safe, whether it be emotionally in the body
Yes.
space? Like, I've come to learn once, and I talk about this in my book. My husband didn't want me to put him with midday with bug spray all over him as a one. He's like, like trying to find the right time for him with the bugs and the sunscreens. And just noticing that my daughter, as a heart type, and then my other daughter, him, the body types need to eat at certain times. And then the thinking types need to feel safe. It has been such a gift to me. And even when I left my friend Marco Polo the other day, because she was traveling in Moab, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. You've done some of the hikes I haven't done. And she we were saying we should do this together sometime. And as a safety type, I needed to tell her as a heart type, I'll do it with you and I'll be so excited to do it. She's been waiting for me for years probably on this, but I had to lay out several safety contingencies if we're going to do this together. And so
Yeah.
it's like just knowing your people. And if she was like, hey, let me put it out there. If this sounds attractive to you, yay. If it doesn't, I'll just wait for Wes. So
Yeah. Oh, that's how me and my girlfriends are. We
are
kind
you?
of talk about things, and with our Ecuador trip, which was last year, my sixth friend, she's like, just letting you know, I'm gonna be anxious until
Yeah.
we get to the hotel room. Just letting you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the entire airport, I'm cool, but I'm like, yes, we got
Yeah.
you. But
Yes.
we will lead. You be the little sheep until we get there, until you feel
Oh,
safe.
oh my gosh, that's so safe. So be safe to your people, guys. This means the world, whatever it is, like we said, with those twos, making sure there's heart time, with those nines, making sure there's comfort, with those ones, making sure there's plans, spontaneity.
Yeah.
You've heard all these types. Now, this is what I also love about you, Angela, is usually at this point in the interview, we say, where can we find you? But what we get with you is you offer so much. So can instead of just saying where you're found, can you tell us about your wonderful packages that you offer people who want to travel?
Yes, thank you, Krista.
Yay.
So I plan custom vacations for busy women, and I offer very, very high touch one-on-one services.
Um,
And so I feel like I need to say I'm not your old school travel agent who's going to ship you off on with a giant tour group,
yeah.
unless that's what you want. But I really specialize in vacations for women
Mm,
who do prefer those more independent experiences and who are really picky and choosy, as you should be, about how you want to spend, your vacation. So I have quite the suite of services that can meet you where you're at. I will say most clients come to me because they're too overwhelmed or don't have the time or feel like a certain trip is just out of their wheelhouse to
yeah.
plan. And so they want me there as essentially their right hand girl to plan the entire trip,
Oh my
with
gosh.
their involvement, of course. So I can literally help you plan and book everything from the flight and lodging down to meal options or how you want to plan ahead to spend some downtime or schedule in some white space. But also, I do have women come to me who they have no issues booking the flight and the hotel. That's no thing for them.
Yeah.
But maybe they tend to show up on vacation
Mhm.
and they don't really know how they're going to spend their time. And so they're kind of Googling as they go, wasting their
Yeah.
vacation time, like figuring
Oh,
out
that's hard.
what to do.
Yeah.
So I also can work one-on-one with you just to design a custom daily itinerary. And then I have
Mm.
two other services that are there to kind of help you jumpstart your vacation planning. If you
Okay.
just feel stuck or paralyzed, like I don't even know where to begin, like I just need someone
Mm.
to help me get started. Um, one of my services is called Vacation Blueprint Design. And this one might be my favorite service because in my past career, I was a geographer for over a decade. So
I
it's
didn't know
totally,
that.
yeah,
What?
it's totally my jam because
Okay, I love it.
it, it is the service to pick if you want a big multi-leg trip to Europe or New Zealand or wherever, and you just need help sorting out like that high level skeleton of like, where are you actually going? Where are you spending the night? How many dates? What does the route look like? All that stuff that you really
Mm.
need to sort out before you go and start looking for a place to stay.
Mm.
So at the end of this service, essentially you have like a blueprint of
Yeah.
what your vacation is going to look like, and you can go and fill in the missing pieces with
Mm.
the lodging and activities. And then I also have a service called destination matching. And so if you are just in a rut or you feel like you just don't know where the heck you should go on your next vacation, I can also help you with that.
Oh my gosh, almost like dating. I love
Yeah.
it.
Destination matching.
And your blueprint reminds me of like magnifying glass, microscope, all these things ones are so good at as like taking that detailed cut and helping you to find out exactly where you would be best suited and how beautiful that you have a background as a geographer. So you
Yes.
really have a healthy lens to help people explore.
Yes. Thank you, Krista. Thank you so much.
Yes, what a gift to have you today, Angela. And tell us now where we can find you for all of this.
Yeah, well, I would say, especially, since you are listening to a podcast and you're a podcast listener, I also have a podcast called Happy Women Travel More. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But we talk about travel and vacations, of course, but we also talk about just how to live a happier life so that you can travel more. So there's just kind of a good blend of like inspirational chats and actionable episodes. So just plenty of goodness. We're close to 200 episodes over there. So plenty for you to look back
Ooh.
on. And Krista has also been a guest. We
Oh,
had an
thank
amazing conversation
you.
that you definitely want to tune into because we dove into, I just forgot what they were called, Krista. What are they called?
Stances.
The stances. We
Yeah.
dove into the stances, which was a concept I hadn't really learned about too much in detail, and how really understanding those can help you take better vacations with your people and balance everything out. It was so good. So if anything, go check out Krista's
Oh,
episode. But as far as social media, I hang out over on Instagram. My handle is at Wild Hair Travels. And we also have a Facebook group,
oh.
which is an extenuation of the podcast called Happy Women Travel More.
My
But yeah,
gosh, such a great name for a group. And I love how you brought out this side of one. Somebody just said it to me on Instagram yesterday. They said people don't know ones can really have a lot of fun. And you just show us that ones want to be happy. They're hard workers. They want their happiness, and they also have some great happiness hacks. So head
yeah,
over there,
yeah.
guys. And thank you so much, Angela, for your beautiful
Thank
time with
you.
us. Thank
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. So
you.
happy to get to chat with you again.
Oh, you too. Now it's the time. It's time for you to say, even if it's a year out, how are we going to make this happen? What week are we going to carve out, even if it's something very small? Or if you're like, okay, we have some time, let's plan something big. And guys, if you're listening live, we're just getting into summer. Maybe one of these things can even be done right away. I know Wes said to us, wow, Jack and I just did a weekend that ended in my favorite mountain area, Kennesaw. And he's like, the whole trip we did Ruby Falls and Kennesaw in one trip. For those of you who know the Chattanooga area and northern Georgia, he's like, it's a perfect 3-day weekend for us. So sometimes you can inspire your spouse if you took a little time away for yourself and you got a little adventurous for the two of you. So be brave. I know Angela also just did a solo travel trip that she highly recommends and had some mini adventures there where she's like, oh my gosh, running into a snake. So you guys, once you step foot out of that door, adventure awaits, as we know the great Bilbo Baggins has talked to us about in Tolkien. Yes, I had to throw that in. But you have a great adventure ahead of you too as you dive in with Angela. And here, thank you so much. Make sure you check out those show notes for everything Angela has to offer. I will talk to you soon.